How to calculate image size in Photoshop. Learn how Photoshop calculates the file size of your image, why the image size changes as you change the number of pixels, and how easy it is to figure out the file size on your own. Changing the number of pixels in the image size in megabytes also changed. More pixels meant a larger file size, and fewer pixels made the file size smaller. But how does that work? What does the number of pixels in an image have to do with its file size? How pixels are related to image size, and how the colors in your image also play an important role. To follow along, you can open any image in Photoshop. Where to find the current image size? To view the current size of your image, go up to the image menu in the menu bar and choose image size. The current size, both in pixels and in megabytes, is found at the top. The number next to the words image size shows the amount of space that the image is taking up in your computer's memory. And below that, next to the word dimensions, is the width and height of the image in pixels. In my case, my image is taking up 8.58 megabytes of memory. And it has a width of 14.14 inches and a height of 9.427 inches. In a moment, I'll show exactly how the image size and pixel dimensions are related. How pixels and color affect the image size. To really understand how the number of pixels in an image affects its file size, we also need to know how Photoshop displays the colors in your image. That's because pixels alone don't create the file size. Much of the size comes from the way Photoshop displays the color of each pixel. Most full-color images use what's called RGB color. RGB stands for red, green, and blue, which are the three primary colors of light. Every color you see in your image is made by mixing some combination of red, green, and blue together. Photoshop's color channels. Photoshop mixes red, green, and blue using color channels. Go to the Channels panel. Here we see the red, green and blue channels that Photoshop is using. The RGB channel at the top isn't really a channel. It represents the full color image that we're seeing on the screen. How do color channels affect image size? Each of the three color channels, red, green and blue, takes up exactly 1 byte in memory for each and every pixel in the image. For example, if your image contained 10 pixels, each pixel would need 1 byte for red, 1 byte for green and 1 byte for blue, for a total of 3 bytes. Most images contain millions of pixels, but the amount of memory that each pixel needs doesn't change. It's always 3 bytes for every pixel, 1 for red, 1 for green and 1 for blue. How to calculate the file size? So to figure out the file size of an image, all we need to do is take the total number of pixels, multiply it by 3. Find the total number of pixels in the image. First, we need the total number of pixels, and we find that in the image size dialog box. And again, we see in the dimensions section that my image has a width of 2121 pixels and a height of 1414 pixels. To find the total number of pixels, multiply the width and height together. In this case, 2121 pixels times 1414 pixels is equal to 2,999,094 pixels. Multiply the total number of pixels by 3. Remember that each pixel in the image needs 3 bytes in memory, 1 for the red channel, 1 for the green channel, and 1 for the blue channel. So to find the total file size, in bytes, multiply the total number of pixels by 3. 2,999,094 pixels multiplied by 3 bytes per pixel is equal to 8,997,282 bytes. Convert the image size from bytes to kilobytes. We have our total file size in bytes. But a byte is a very small unit of measurement, so it's not very practical to refer to the size of an image in bytes. Instead, we usually talk about image size in either kilobytes or, more commonly, in megabytes. 1 kilobyte is equal to 1024 bytes. So to convert bytes to kilobytes, divide the total number of bytes by 1024. With my image, 8,997,282 bytes divided by 1024 is equal to 8,786.408 kilobytes. Convert the image size from kilobytes to megabytes. Even kilobytes is too small of a measurement type to be very practical for most images. So instead, we usually refer to file size in megabytes. 1 megabyte is equal to 1024 kilobytes. So to find the total image size in megabytes, divide the number of kilobytes, 8,786.408, by 1024, which gives us 8.58 megabytes. And if we look again at the image size dialog box, we see that sure enough, Photoshop is showing me that the size of my image is 8.58 megabytes.